If it's not Agatha Christie, I don't want to know. Hi guys, in today's video we are going to be doing an unhaul. I am getting new bookshelves soon, like in the next like few weeks. I think like on the 12th of November or something. So we are saying goodbye to these bookshelves, and I am having a clear out of books. You may see there are some gaps in my bookshelves. So they look a little bit shoddy at the moment, but we're just gonna roll with it. But yes, we are doing an unhaul. I'm gonna try and make this as quick as possible because we are unhauling quite a few books, and I am gonna be selling all of these on Depop, so I will leave. Can you leave your Depop link? I think you can. So if you live in England and you want any of these books, check them out down below, because I'm getting rid of them because I need space for all the books I keep buying. Because I mean, I've bought so many books, it's probably time to do a new haul. It's a problem. I would just like to show you that I got this book, and like, hello, stunning cover. Just dropped it on the floor. Story of my life. Okay, we're gonna get started. The first book I'm getting rid of is Flowers for Algernon. This is a light sci-fi book about a man who has learning difficulties and like an IQ of like 68, and basically they do an experiment on him to make him really smart. And I mean, Algernon is the rat, but the rat really doesn't appear much in this book. But basically it made me so depressed. I'm never going to read again, and I don't want it on my shelf because it just makes me sad, because it was just really sad. So if you want to cry, buy this book. The next set of books I'm getting rid of are all of the Stephanie Perkins books: Anna and the French Kiss, Lola and the Boy Next Door, and Isla and the Happily Ever After. I read these books when I was like 15. I think I liked them, but I think it's because everyone else liked them, so I just was like, oh yeah, they were good, but I don't think I actually liked them. And there's so many problematic things, especially in Anna and the French Kiss. The other two were just bland. They're just contemporary romances, but they are in perfect condition, and if someone else enjoys them, then I'm glad, but I'm never going to read them again. And they are pretty colours, but I don't want to look at them on my shelf because I just don't care about them, like, at all. The next book I'm getting rid of is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I don't even know what this book is about at this point, because I bought it about 4 or 5 years ago. I made it like 2/3 of the way through and I was bored to tears. So it's just like your standard like teens with powers in a dystopian society thing. I don't remember anything about it, so I'm sorry, I can't give you a better synopsis. I'm getting rid of The Monogram Murders by Sophie Hanna. I didn't actually read this book, but I bought it because I thought it was an Agatha Christie novel, but then I realised it was like an Agatha Christie like idea that was written by someone else, and really I only bought it because I love Agatha Christie, so I didn't really want to read a book that's not by her, because I don't like mystery that much. I just like Agatha Christie's mystery. Maybe I'm missing out, but I just don't think I'm ever going to read it. It's apparently about Hercule Poirot's quiet supper is interrupted when a young woman confides to him that she is about to be murdered. So, I mean, it sounds interesting, but if it's not Agatha Christie, I don't want to know. The next book I'm getting rid of is Extraordinary Means by What's Your Name? Robin Schneider. I read this book a few years ago. I gave it, I think, like 3 stars. It was fine. It's just I'm never going to read it again, and I have no emotional attachment to it. It's about some sick kids, so I think that's why I picked it up initially, because I'm sick, they're sick solidarity. But it's about basically a group of like teens who are in this house where they are looked after, or like in what's that word? Oh, I'll put it here, like when quarantine, they're in like quarantine, so they're all in this house together because they all have, I don't remember what's wrong with them, some sort of like lung I'm saying lungs because there's like lungs made of trees on the front, so they have some kind of illness and they are living in this house together, and they decide to have some fun because they're like dying, so might as well have some fun. So yeah, it was a good book and I like the spine colour, but I just don't have any emotional attachment to it and I just don't need it on my shelf. The next book I'm getting rid of is Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell. The only reason it stayed on my shelf for so many years is because I really like the spine colour and it looked nice in my rainbow, but I didn't like this book when I read it. I think I gave it 1 or 2 stars. Like I didn't like this book, and then also it's like super problematic, so like why am I keeping it? If you don't know why it's problematic, there's a lot of fetishization of Park, who is I think Korean, or yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Korean. If I can find a link, there was a good thread on Twitter, but if I can find it I'll leave it down below. But basically it's just about Eleanor Park and their romance, and I didn't like it because I didn't like the writing and I just thought it was boring, and then also it's super problematic as well, so I don't need it on my shelf. And I mean, I might just donate this because I don't even want people paying money for this, because we don't want to support problematic authors. Next book I'm getting rid of is Time Riders by Alex Scarrow. This book is like 10 years old. I don't know when I bought it, but I bought it because like my best friend was loving it when she read it. It's basically like these like teenagers should have died at these moments in time, but they were like rescued and like preserved and joined to this like time travel agency thing. I'm not gonna pick it up. It's in like perfect condition and like it sounds kind of interesting. It says mess around with time and the world you know could become a world you don't, so it sounds kind of interesting, but I just know that I'm not gonna pick this up over the loads of books I already have, and yeah, it's just I think I did read it, but I don't remember reading it, so you know. The next book I'm getting rid of is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. Again, a book I kind of enjoyed, but it is, I think, slightly problematic. I just think it's a weird way to talk about suicide. But yeah, I just again don't have any emotional attachment to it. I enjoyed it when I read it, but it's just not, it just doesn't mean anything to me and I'm never going to read it again. This is a book about a girl called what is your name, Hannah Baker, who commits suicide, and she leaves this boy Clay a bunch of tapes like talking him through her life and what led up to her suicide. Kind of felt like she was blaming her suicide on other people. It was kind of weird, but yeah, I just don't care for it anymore. So the next 2 books I'm getting rid of are the 2 first books in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. I thought the first one was alright, it was relatively enjoyable. It's basically about this boy who goes to this island and basically finds this time loop where a bunch of kids and teens are living in this house and they all have peculiarities about them and they just live in this loop forever, and yeah, it's about that, and basically stuff happens. And yeah, it's got all these like weird pictures in it, and I thought the first one was alright, but I hated the second one, so I'm not going to continue on the series. I'm not going to read them again, and I'm sure there are other people that would like them a lot more, and I would rather they read them. Next book I'm getting rid of is How I Live Now by Meg Rosoff. I don't really know what this book is about, but I tried reading it and I like just hated the writing style. Like I think I read about 12 pages of it and I couldn't finish it because I just hated the writing style. It just was not for me. There's just like no quotation marks and stuff, like there's no like speech marks. It's just really weird. I don't know what it's about. 15-year-old New Yorker Daisy thinks she knows all about love. Her mother died giving birth to her, and now her dad has sent her away for the summer to live in the English countryside with cousins she's never even met. Then she'll discover what real love is, something violent, mysterious and wonderful. There her world will be turned upside down and a perfect summer will explode into a million bewildering pieces. How will Daisy live then? That's what it's about, but why can you not put quotation marks? Why? The next book I'm getting rid of is All the Right Places by Jennifer Niven. This is a book about two characters, Violet and Finch. Is his name Theodore or Finch? I think it's Finch. I think he goes by Finch. Basically they meet on top of a bell tower as they're both thinking about suicide, and they kind of become friends, and it's a story about grief, mental health, depression, suicide, etc. Again, not my favourite book, and I think there were some elements that I didn't love about it. I think it romanticised mental illness slightly, and yeah, again, just no emotional attachment to it, and I'm never going to read it again, so yeah, I don't need it on my shelf. Next book I'm unhauling is With Malice by Eileen Cook. This is about a girl who had an accident that like killed her best friend, but she doesn't remember any of it. I just tried reading this and I was just not interested in it, and there are just so many other books that I'd prefer to read over this one, so yeah, again don't need it on my shelf, and it's an ugly brown colour, so. Next book I'm getting rid of is You by Caroline Kepnes. I kind of enjoyed this book, but I don't really think it's a book you can like reread. I gave it like 3.5 stars, but I'm definitely never going to read it again, and I didn't really enjoy it that much, and again there's literally no emotional attachment to it, and I just really don't care about it, so yeah, I'm just never going to read it again, and I don't need it on my shelf because I don't look at it and think of, you know, how much I loved it, so it's going. That may be slightly controversial because I know some people really love that book, but for me it was just kind of average, so yeah, again I don't need it on my shelf because it's not bringing me any joy. We're Maria Kondoing it up in here. The next book I'm getting rid of is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This is about a boy with Asperger's, I believe, and he finds this dead dog and decides that he is going to make it his mission to find out what happened to the dog, who killed the dog, because he was found with like a pitchfork in him, so obviously someone murdered the dog. He didn't just like die by accident, so he sets out on a mission to find who killed this dog. The reason I'm getting rid of it is it's super problematic and it does not portray people with autism or Asperger's in a good light, and it just is very poor representation that was not researched at all, and I just think is really harmful generally. So again, I might just get rid of this book because I don't think people should read it, and if this had been on your TBR for a while, I would recommend taking it off because it's just super problematic and not good for the autism Asperger's community in general, from what I've read from actual own voices reviewers. So yeah, not a fan of this book. I used to like it when I read it. I read it in like year 8 for English class. I liked it then, but I'm a lot wiser now, so yeah, not a good book. The next book I'm getting rid of is I Was Here by Gail Foreman. I think I enjoyed this when I read it, and it's not a bad book by any means from what I remember. I think I gave it like 4 stars, but I'm never going to read it again. Have no emotional attachment to it. This is just me saying the same thing, but basically if I'm never going to read a book again and it doesn't bring me joy to look at, then I just don't think there's a point in having it on my shelf when someone else could read it and enjoy it. So that's why I'm getting rid of most of these books, and it may seem like a lot of books, but I don't get rid of books often, so this is like just a massive clear out of books I don't want on my shelf when I move all my books off my shelf and put them on my new shelves. These are just books that don't need to be there, but this is about a girl whose best friend commits suicide, and she goes off to like find her best friend's boyfriend and kind of try and piece together what happened and why her best friend did that when she didn't think that that was something that was an issue. Next book I'm getting rid of is Paper Towns by John Green. This is just not John Green's best work in my opinion. I'm not a massive John Green fan. I love his books, Turtles All the Way Down. That's my favourite book that he's written and one of my favourite books of all time. But Paper Towns really didn't do that much for me. I had a good time reading it and I kind of liked the movie, but again, I'm never gonna reread this. I hate that it's the movie version cover, and I just have no real memory of reading this, and so it doesn't bring me anything to look at. But it's basically about this girl called Margot who, what's his name? Is his name like Q or something? Yeah, Q basically is infatuated with her and she disappears, and he kind of goes on a road trip to try and track her down. So yeah, just doesn't do a whole lot for me. Next book I'm getting rid of is Room by Emma Donoghue. This is a book I kind of enjoyed, but again, it's a book I'm never gonna read again and really doesn't do that much for me. It's basically a kind of mystery, thrillery type of book. I'm not really sure how you would categorise it, but it's basically about this boy Jack who has lived in this room with his mother for his whole life. He is 5, I think. Yeah, and he's known nothing except room. The room he has lived in and the room he has never left. And that's all I want to say about this book, because it is obviously kind of a book you figure out along the way, but I had a relatively good time reading this, but it just wasn't anything special in my opinion. And it's also narrated by Jack, who is 5, and I found that slightly tedious, but I was obviously invested in the story, so I didn't mind it too much. But I would never reread it because I know the story and I found Jack's narration too tedious to go through it again when I already know what happens. So yeah. And the final book I'm getting rid of is Finding Audrey by Sophie Hanna. I read this book, I want to say like 3 years ago. I liked it when I read it, but now it just seems very average and I'm not going to read it again. I kept it because again I like the spine. Yellow is my favourite colour, so I don't like to get rid of yellow books because I like them and I think they look pretty. But this is a book about a girl called, what's her name? Audrey. Oh yeah, funnily enough, Finding Audrey is about a girl called Audrey. Wow, who saw that coming? But she has anxiety after a incident happened at her old school that we don't know about, and she like doesn't want to leave the house and stuff, and then she meets this boy who kind of like helps her come out of her shell. Is it romanticising mental illness? Maybe a little, but overall I just don't really care about this book. There are much better books I've read about anxiety, and while this made me feel kind of comforted when I read it a few years ago, I've got much better books that represent my form of anxiety and how I feel about anxiety, and this book just isn't it. So yeah, so those are all the books I'm getting rid of, and I will be either donating them or selling them on Depop, and yeah, I just hope they go to someone who is going to enjoy them. Most of them I've just read and just don't have any real want to read them again, and I don't look at my shelf and see them and think, oh, what a great book. I just see them and think, eh. So that's how I feel mainly about them, is just eh. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video of me unhauling some books. My October wrap up should be coming soon, in the next few days. Hopefully I'm gonna get back onto a more regular schedule, because my schedule's been a bit off this week because my demon leg has been out to play. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch my previous video all about my many chronic illnesses and why I can't do anything. So yes, I would really appreciate it if you checked that out. It was a video I put a lot of effort into, and I think it's a really important video, and I'm really glad I made it, and I just really want people to be informed and learn something new, and just, yeah, be more aware of different chronic illnesses and invisible illnesses and just general disability. And I'm really proud of that video. So yeah, if you want to check that out, I'll leave it in the cards, because I feel fancy now because I know how to use the card thingies, so look at me go. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Goodreads, they're always down in the description. If you want to message me, that's cool. I want to make friends. I love everybody I've met in the book community, so yeah. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you next time with my October wrap up, which is going to be long because I've read a lot of books, but I'm going to try and be snappy. Have I ever been snappy in my life? No, because I could talk for England. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!